I can't even talk because I'm freaking out. Hey guys, it's Rena. Welcome back to my channel. I know you guys already read the title, so you already know what's about to go down. So I hope that you're ready to get a little nervous here and scared. I have Boston here with me because I am too scared to be alone. I'm going to be reading all these stories off my mom's laptop, which is right in front of me here. So that's why I'm going to be looking this way, just to let you know. And also, before I start reading you guys some stories, I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Isabella because she gave me this really cute ring light setup. You know, if you noticed an improvement in the lighting, that is thanks to her. So again, thanks Isabella, really appreciate it, and I love it, so thanks girl. Okay, so this website was titled 20 Short Scary Stories That Will Give You Goosebumps. Let's get started with the first story. I thought these were gonna have like titles, but I guess not, so let's just start it. A few years ago, my brother would get a call on his cell phone around 2 to 3 a.m. every night. He would answer it, and it was this hellish sounding noise, like Sonic mixed with screams. He changed his cell phone number after a month of this, and it stopped. Then after a few weeks ago, it began again, the exact same noise at the exact same time. Finally, one day, he decided to black dial the call. It was an old man that had no clue what he was talking about. Still, the calls persisted. If he didn't answer, it would call a few times more. No messages were left. He decided to say screw it, ended his contact with the phone number company, switched to a new phone, and then got another new number. You guessed it, the screaming static calls continued after a short delay. But by this time, he was terrified every night, unsure why this was happening. He black dialed the number again and got a different person. Around this time, he lost his job and his phone. The calls stopped, of course. His phone was disconnected now. So one day, my mom asked me to listen to this weird message she got on our house phone. It was the static screaming. We showed my brother, and he was freaking out. He blacked out the number again, and the number said it was disconnected that time. Never heard from it again after that. That's weird. I would bug out. Honestly, I'd change my name. On to the second story. This happened to a friend of mine. She told me about a year ago. We'll call her Minji. Minji is in her late 20s and works as an English tutor in South Korea. One evening, a few years ago, she was tutoring a high school boy. They were up studying pretty late, and the buses stopped running. Being a long way from his house, the boy asked if he could crash on her floor overnight and get the first bus the next morning. Minji was very reluctant because inviting a teenage male student to stay the night didn't sound like a good idea. Yeah, no. But he was begging her, and eventually she relented. Why? Why would you, whatever. They went back to her one-room apartment, and she got into bed, while he laid a blanket on the floor, and they both fell asleep. Yeah, he better be on the floor. A few hours later, maybe at 2 a.m., the boy wakes up Minji. I'm really hungry, he says. Let's go get some food. Minji opens her eyes and looks at him in disbelief. Food? Now? It's 2 a.m. Go back to bed. But the student insists. No, I'm hungry. Let's eat something now. She tells him that there's some ramen in the kitchen and he could fix it himself. This doesn't satisfy him. He doesn't want ramen. There's a 24-hour place just down the road. Let's go there. Like, first of all, this boy is being very, like, what's the word? He's being very uptight, or I don't even know what the word is, but he's being like, be grateful. What are you doing? Why are you being so annoying like that? Like, what? Eventually, after 7 minutes, the boy gets Minji to come with him to the restaurant. They leave the apartment and head out. As soon as they're on the street, the boy turns to Minji and says, I'm not hungry. I woke up in the middle of the night and I looked under your bed. There was a man sleeping there. They called the police and discovered a homeless man had been living in Minji's apartment, sleeping under her bed for over 2 months. The boy only saw him because he was lying on the floor. So he had a clear view of underneath the bed. The police arrested the man, and thankfully there was no issues. What the fuck? That is so weird. What? How do you not know that there's a random ass dude in your house? Like, what? That is crazy. Okay, first of all, I feel really bad that I was like just complaining about the boy being dead annoying, but he wasn't. He was just trying to get it out of the house. Thank God he slept over. Because first of all, okay, I thought the story was going to take a way other turn. Like, if, you know what I'm saying? But what the... Wow. Okay, that one was crazy. So far, that one really got me. All right, here's the next story, guys. A friend and I were going to a party a few hours out of town, so we decided to stay at her family's holiday house about an hour south of the party, now 3 hours from home. We arrive around mid-afternoon. It was winter in the holiday town, so the area was completely empty. No other cars on the street. When we left for the party, I spent a moment deciding whether to pull the gate all the way closed. I had trouble opening it earlier when we arrived, and if we were going to go home late, I didn't want it to be stuck outside, so I decided to shut it for security. Well, duh, why wouldn't you shut it? I don't know. Party was great. Glad you had fun. We got back to the house around 12:30 and the gate was open. I immediately felt on edge because not only did I know I locked it, but I knew it couldn't have just blown open in the wind. But I didn't want to make a big deal, so I was very vague when I asked my friend if I shut it. When we went inside, I decided to make a snack. I was wandering through the house when suddenly my friend raced to the kitchen into the hallway and tackled me to the ground. She was convinced she heard someone walking around outside. We tried to calm ourselves down. We had no cell phone reception and there was no one else around. Over the next hour or so, we sat in the hallway paralyzed with fear. We heard footsteps outside. Well, that's what you get for not telling your friend that you shut the gate. We decided we had to leave, so we gathered everything up and got ready to make a break to the car. Just as we went to the front door ready to leave, we heard a huge bang in the backyard and suddenly what sounded like 100 birds started screaming. We leaped into the car and ended up starting it with all our stuff on our laps. We didn't even bother to put it in the back seat. As we reversed out of the driveway, we saw somebody running up the side of the house towards us. Sped the entire way home, and even once we got back to my place, didn't sleep all night. What? That is why you should have said something when you noticed that the gate was open. I don't understand why she just didn't think that that was a big deal. What the heck? Stories are getting crazy, you guys. I'm shaking over here. Okay, here's the next story. My grandfather died last year, sometime when my son was maybe a year old. Sorry to hear that. We had dinner with the whole family every Friday night, so my son had seen him several times. My grandfather was a very quiet, proud man, but when he thought he was alone or unseen, he would usually make silly faces to my son to get a laugh. A couple nights after his funeral, my son, who liked to crawl into the bed with us in the middle of the night, started laughing uncontrollably at 2 a.m. I'm so sorry about Boston. So I get out of bed to see what's going on, to find my son sitting in the middle of the living room in the dark laughing, and I say, "Hey buddy, what are you doing?" In toddler speak, he says, "Papa, funny." I got a little nervous for some reason, but I went to pick him up and bring him back to our room for the rest of the night. And as I'm hollering him away, he says, "Bye, Papa," and blows a kiss. Absolutely nothing I can see. I mean, if it was your grandfather, it's not that scary, you know? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I were sleeping together when I woke up to her saying, "What are you doing?" She sometimes talks in her sleep, but this sounded urgent, so it jolted me awake, and I asked her what she was talking about. She then woke up and said she thought she saw someone at the end of the bed, thinking it was just a dream or semi-awake hallucination. We thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. About an hour later, I woke up and saw someone standing on the bed with the sheets wrapped up and twisted on their neck. I didn't know what to do, but the first thing that came to my mouth was, "What are you doing?" My girlfriend then woke me up. I had been dreaming the exact same thing that she did and said the exact same thing. What? You guys need to move. Move to a different house. That's my advice. When I was in 8th grade, I went on a school field trip called the Louisiana Tour. It was mostly going around significant sites of South Louisiana. One of the places we went to was Myrtle's Plantation, which was considered to be one of the most haunted places in the country. Why would you go with your school in 8th grade? Doesn't make sense to me. There are all kinds of stories about the place, but at one point we were standing in a room as part of a larger group, and the tour guide was talking about something. I don't remember what. But as I was standing there, I start to hear a sound that sounds something like someone hitting a piano key. After I heard it a couple of times, I started to look around for a source of the noise. I didn't see a piano, but I kept hearing it. So I asked my friends who were standing near me if they heard it, and they said no. So when I heard it again, I asked them if they heard it again, and they thought I was crazy. So when I went back looking around the room, everybody's eyes were on the tour guide except one woman. She caught my eye and pointed at me and then at her ear with a questioning look. What? I then realized she was asking if I heard it too, and I nodded. Oh! At this point, the tour guide starts telling a story about a soldier who had died there, and he played the piano, and multiple guests has reported hearing him playing it at night. I honestly didn't know what to think. I guess I still don't. I talked to the woman as well as we were leaving the room, and she said she heard the exact same thing as me, but her husband and son had not heard it. Whoa, I wonder why, like, certain people did and other people didn't. Oh, this one's another story of that same place. I work at Myrtle's Plantation and have so many of these scary stories that visitors tell me. The creepiest is one, in my opinion, that you can sleep at the plantation, kind of like a bed and breakfast. Well, we have this room that is filled with those creepy ceramic dolls. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there because, are you kidding me? Dolls? Have you not seen any scary movie ever? I can't do dolls. Oh God. There is one doll though that was one of the children's favorites and always was in bed with her at night. The child later died. Too long to explain, and the doll stayed on the bed with her. When we started to house guest the Myrtles, we kept the dolls on the bed in memory of the child. The first night when someone slept in the room, they moved the doll to get more comfortable. In the morning, the doll was back in the bed with the hands on its guest's throat. She came out outraged, accusing us that we did something to her room. No one went in or out of her room that night at all. The guest moved the doll as well, and when he was sleeping, he heard tapping on the wood floors. He woke up and noticed the doll on the floor where the sound was coming from. Everyone who stays in the room and moves the doll will come and go back in its bed. How are you just not gonna tell us what happened to the child that died? Too long to explain? What? When I was growing up, one of my best friends told me about a very creepy situation involving him, his younger brother, and a man in the window. When my friend and his little brother were young, they shared a bedroom. They are some years apart, but his younger brother was born with a multitude of different health issues, including multiple sclerosis. Sorry, can't say that. And he's confined to a wheelchair and cannot care for himself. Aww. So, to keep an eye on him overnight when his parents couldn't, they shared a bedroom. One night, my friend randomly woke up with no particular reason and happened to glance over at his little brother and noticed something very startling. A strange silhouette of a man wearing a top hat looking through the window behind his younger brother's crib. The first thing my friend did was jump up and turn the light on and ran to his parents' room to tell them what he saw. When his parents came back into the room to investigate, his younger brother was having a seizure in his crib. Oh no. Few of his family members say his younger brother's guardian angel standing over the window at night. My friends believe it was death. It's still pretty unsettling to me. Aw, that's sad, regardless of what it was. I don't even know how to feel. I feel sad. That's how I feel. When I was younger, I had an imaginary friend who lived in this massive antique dresser. We chilled out, and I vividly remember him telling me stories, although I had absolutely no recollection of what they actually were. I remember one day talking to my parents about it. Dad traveled quite a bit, so he wasn't up to date with what I was into. And when I started telling him about my dresser buddy, he wanted to know his name. It was something innocent like Peter or Patrick, but I can still see him going white in the face. I drew Peter/Patrick out for him, and the very next day, him and my uncle took out the dresser and burnt it. It wasn't until a few years later when I found out that my dad's little brother, my uncle, also had the same friend with the same name who lived in the same antique dresser. After a few months of the typical imaginary friend shit, my uncle started having night terrors and couldn't sleep because of Peter/Patrick. It was so bad that they had to move him out of his room before he managed to get back to normal. Alrighty then. Okay guys, and that was all the stories. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to have a lot of trouble sleeping tonight. I kind of wish I didn't do this to myself because I am such a baby and I get so scared with this stuff. And like I said, I believe that my house is haunted. So if you want to hear some of my scary stories, let me know and maybe that could be in a next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I didn't ruin your sleep tonight. And I hope you enjoyed this video and listening to scary stories with me. And